Sophia Bennett sat cross-legged on her worn couch, staring at the half-empty bottle of wine on her coffee table. The lights of Boston sparkled through her apartment window, but they felt distant and cold, like stars she could never reach. 28 years old, she felt like she was watching her life happen to someone else. 3 months had passed since Daniel walked out, claiming she was too focused on work and emotionally closed off. The accusations still stung, because part of her wondered if he was right. She threw herself into her marketing job, stayed late at the office, and avoided the empty apartment that used to feel like home. When friends pushed you toward, Keosha's phone buzzed with a video call from Nina Rodriguez, her best friend since college. Nina's face filled the screen, bronzed from her recent trip to California, grinning with mischief. "You're sitting in the dark again, aren't you?" Nina accused. Sophia glanced around her dimly lit living room. "It's called mood lighting. It's called depression. Listen, I have an assignment for you." Nina's eyes gleamed with the kind of trouble that usually ended in stories they'd laugh about years later. "I dare you to write the most outrageous, flirty text you can imagine. Something totally unlike you. Prove you still have a pulse." Sophia laughed despite herself. "That's your solution to heartbreak? Digital chaos? Absolutely. Send it to me. Make it spicy. Make it ridiculous. Make it something that would make your mother faint." The wine had softened Sophia's edges just enough. She typed quickly, her fingers dancing across the screen with liquid courage. The message was bold, playful, completely unlike anything she'd normally write. It hinted at desires she barely admitted to herself, wrapped in humor that only Nina would understand. She hit send and took a triumphant sip of wine. Then her stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables, the name that changed everything. The message hadn't gone to Nina. It had gone to a contact labeled JC, emergency only. Sophia's hands trembled as she stared at her phone. Her mind raced backward, trying to remember when she'd saved that number. Then it clicked. 6 months ago, a car accident on Commonwealth Avenue. She'd witnessed a cyclist get hit, and a man in an expensive suit had stopped to help. He'd given her his number in case police needed witness statements. She'd saved it and completely forgotten about it until now. The screen showed delivered in small, merciless letters. Her face burned with humiliation. She tried to convince herself he wouldn't see it, that the number might be disconnected, that the universe might show mercy just this once. Her phone lit up with a response. Received. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. When expensive cars arrive in the night 15 minutes later, she heard them. The low, synchronized purr of powerful engines. She walked to her window and pulled back the curtain just enough to see 5 black luxury sedans turning. Onto her quiet residential street in perfect formation, they moved with military precision and stopped directly. In front of her building, Sophia backed away from the window, her breath coming in short gasps. Her first thought was that she'd accidentally texted some kind of government official. Maybe he thought she was threatening him. Maybe she was about to be arrested for the world's most embarrassing crime. Her phone buzzed again. Sophia Bennett. "Come downstairs now." He knew her full name. She'd never given it. The man who arrived like a storm her legs felt weak as she descended the stairs. But curiosity pulled her forward stronger than fear. When she opened the building's front door, she froze. Standing on the sidewalk was the man from the accident. But seeing him now, she realized she'd completely underestimated who he was. Julian Cross stood well over 6 feet tall, dressed in dark clothes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His face was sharp and handsome in a way that seemed almost aggressive, like he'd been carved from marble by an angry sculptor. But it was his eyes that held her. They were dark, intelligent, and completely unreadable. "Miss Bennett," he said, his voice smooth and controlled. "We need to have a conversation about your message." Sophia's mouth went dry. "I am so sorry. It was a mistake. I was joking with my friend, and I sent it to the wrong contact. I didn't mean for you to see that. I'm not crazy or dangerous or whatever you're thinking." Julian studied her with an intensity that made her feel transparent. "Do you know who I am? You're the man who helped at that accident. You gave me your number for the police report? My name is Julian Cross. I'm the CEO of Cross Industries. Paused, watching her face. And 12 hours ago, someone attempted to hack into my company's secure servers. Very sophisticated. Very expensive. Very deliberate. Sophia's eyes widened. What does that have to do with me? Everything, Julian said quietly. Because in my world, coincidences don't exist. A woman sending an explicit message to me in the middle of a security crisis is statistically suspicious. You think I'm part of some hacking operation? Sophia's voice rose with disbelief. I work in marketing. I make social media posts about organic coffee and sustainable fashion. I barely know how to update my laptop. When fear meets something, stranger Julian stepped closer, and Sophia noticed his security team fanning out around the building's perimeter. When you opened that door, you looked terrified. People who are setting traps don't look terrified. They look prepared. You looked like someone having a genuine crisis. 'Cause I am having a crisis, Sophia said, her voice shaking. I sent the worst possible message to a complete stranger. And now, there are luxury cars surrounding my building like I'm in a spy movie. For the first time, something almost resembling a smile touched Julian's lips. Not a spy movie. Just extreme caution. 3 years ago, someone infiltrated my company by getting close to me personally. She nearly destroyed everything I built. It won't happen again. Sophia saw the wall in his eyes when he mentioned the past, a barrier built from old wounds. I'm not here to destroy anything, she said softly. I'm just a regular person who made a stupid mistake on a lonely night. Julian studied her for another long moment, then nodded slowly. I believe you, but belief doesn't solve the problem you've created. What problem? The fact that my security flagged your message. The fact that my team now has your information. The fact that anyone watching me will wonder who you are and why you contacted me. He paused. You stepped into my world tonight, Miss Bennett, and getting out isn't as simple as an apology. Sophia felt the ground shifting beneath her, her ordinary life tilting towards something she couldn't yet understand. Julian Cross stood before her like a door opening into chaos, and somehow she knew that walking through it would change everything. Sophia woke to sunlight streaming through her curtains and the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. For one blissful moment, she thought last night had been a wine-fueled dream. Then she saw the message. Be ready in 20 minutes. Car is waiting downstairs. J.C. She sat up, her heart racing. Through her window, she could see a single black sedan parked at the curb, looking distinctly out of place among the modest hatchbacks and SUVs of her neighborhood. Sophia dressed quickly in jeans and a sweater, her mind spinning with questions. When she stepped outside, a woman in a crisp suit opened the car door. Miss Bennett, Mr. Cross is expecting you at headquarters? The drive through Boston's financial district felt surreal. The car stopped at a gleaming tower of steel and glass, and Sophia was escorted through a private entrance that required 3 different security checks. The Tower of Power and Secrets elevator shot upward so smoothly she barely felt the motion. Just the changing numbers climbing toward the 50th floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a reception area that looked like it belonged in an art museum. Rachel Kim, a woman with perfectly styled black hair and an expression of professional courtesy, greeted her. Miss Bennett, Mr. Cross is in the conference room. Please follow me. They walked down a corridor lined with windows overlooking the city. Sophia felt small and out of place, like a sparrow that had accidentally flown into a palace. Julian stood by floor 2 ceiling windows, looking out over Boston. He turned when she entered, and Sophia noticed he looked tired, like he'd been awake all night. Thank you for coming, he said, which surprised her because it sounded almost polite. Did I have a choice? Sophia asked, more nervous than she wanted to admit. Always. But I'm hoping you'll choose to hear me out. Julian gestured to a chair at the long conference table. Please sit. We need to discuss what happens next. The investigation reveals uncomfortable truths, and Pierce entered the room. A man built like he'd spent 20 years in military special forces. He carried a tablet and wore an expression of professional neutrality. Miss Bennett, I'm Owen Pierce, head of security. I apologize for the intrusion, but we ran a background check overnight. Sophia's eyes widened. You investigated me? Standard protocol when someone makes unexpected contact with Mr. Cross during a security incident, Owen explained. I need to ask you some questions to close our file. For the next 30 minutes, Sophia answered questions about her life, her job, her routines, her digital activity. It felt invasive and humiliating, but Owen's tone remained respectful throughout. Finally, he closed his tablet. No flags. No suspicious connections. No correlation to the security breach. He looked at Julian. She's clean. Sophia exhaled with relief so sharp it made her dizzy. Julian nodded his dismissal, and Owen left, closing the door behind him. Silence filled the conference room, heavy with unspoken words. I'm sorry you had to endure that, Julian said quietly. But I had to know for certain. When protection requires pretense, Sophia crossed her arms. So what now? Am I free to go back to my normal life and pretend this never happened? Julian walked to the window, his shoulders tense. That's the problem. You can't. What do you mean? Your name is now in our security database. Anyone investigating the breach might see it. My competitors might see it. Media outlets that monitor my movements might see it. Turn to face her. And they'll wonder who you are. They'll dig into your life. They'll create narratives that serve their interests, not yours. Sophia felt cold dread settling in her stomach. So I'm just collateral damage in your corporate war? Unless we control the narrative first, Julian said. Unless we give them a story that makes you untouchable. What kind of story? He met her eyes directly. A relationship. Public, deliberate, and completely strategic. Sophia stared at him. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? For 8 weeks. Long enough to stabilize the situation and finalize a merger my company's negotiating? After that, we stage a quiet mutual separation, and you disappear from the spotlight with your reputation intact. The choice between chaos and control. Sophia stood up, pacing across the polished floor. This is insane. You're asking me to fake date a billionaire CEO because I sent a drunk text to the wrong number? I'm asking you to accept temporary protection in exchange for temporary cooperation, Julian corrected. If you refuse, you'll spend the next several months being followed, photographed, and speculated about. People will approach you for information. Your privacy will evaporate. And if I agree, you'll have security, resources, and control over the narrative. You'll attend events with me. Appear in carefully managed photos. Maintain appropriate distance in private. After 8 weeks, you walk away with a financial settlement for your time and effort. Sophia stopped pacing and looked at him directly. How much? $200,000. Her breath caught. That was more money than she'd make in 3 years at her current job. Why me? She asked. Why not hire an actress or someone who does this professionally? Julian's expression softened slightly. Because you're real. Because you already lived the incident that brought you into my orbit. Because hiring someone would create exactly the kind of fabricated situation I'm trying to avoid. He paused. And because everything about last night tells me you're not someone who would exploit this. On boundaries and unexpected honesty. Sophia sank back into her chair, her mind racing through implications. What about physical boundaries? Are you expecting me to actually play the part in private? No. Julian's answer was immediate and firm. In private, we maintain complete separation. In public, we present a united front, hand-holding, appropriate proximity, nothing more. You have full control over physical contact. I won't cross any line you don't explicitly permit. The directness of his response surprised her. She'd expected evasion or manipulation, but he seemed genuinely committed to keeping this professional. What about my job? She asked. You keep it? We'll coordinate your schedule around necessary appearances. Your employer will be told you're working on a special project with Cross Industries. You'll receive a temporary consultant title to explain your presence at events. Sophia rubbed her temples, trying to process everything. This sounds like a business transaction. It is, Julian said simply. But it's also the least harmful solution to a problem neither of us wanted. She looked up at him, studying his face. Beneath the control and authority, she saw something else. Genuine concern. He wasn't trying to trap her. He was trying to protect both of them from a situation that had spiraled beyond their control. "And you promise this ends in 8 weeks?" she asked quietly. "You have my word?" "After the merger announcement, we stage a respectful separation. No drama, no scandal, no repercussions for you." Oh, Sophia took a deep breath, feeling like she was standing on the edge of a cliff. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was madness. But another part, smaller and quieter, whispered that maybe this was the door to a different life, even if only temporarily. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need complete honesty from you. No surprises. No hidden agendas. If something changes, you tell me immediately." Julian nodded. "Agreed. And I need to be able to walk away if it becomes unbearable. The full financial settlement. Regardless of timing," he confirmed. Sophia stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city that suddenly felt both familiar and foreign. She thought about her small apartment, her predictable job, the safe life she'd built that felt increasingly hollow. Maybe this was the universe offering her something unexpected. Maybe it was a terrible mistake. But standing in this tower, looking at a man who'd arrived in her life like a storm, Sophia realized she was tired of playing it safe. She turned to face Julian, her heart pounding. 8 weeks. Complete honesty. Full control over boundaries. "Yes," Sophia extended her hand. "Then we have an agreement." Julian crossed the room and shook her hand, his grip firm and warm. For a moment they stood there, two strangers bound by an impossible contract. And Sophia felt the entire trajectory of her life shift beneath her feet. "Welcome to my world, Sophia Bennett," Julian said quietly. "I hope you're ready." She looked into his dark, unreadable eyes. Sophia wasn't sure if she was ready at all, but she knew with absolute certainty that there was no going back now. Sophia stood in front of her bathroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress Rachel Kim had sent over was elegant and understated, deep emerald silk that made her skin glow. A professional stylist had arrived that afternoon to help with hair and makeup, transforming her from marketing coordinator to someone who belonged on Julian Cross's arm. Tonight was their first public appearance, a charity gala for children's hospitals. Hundreds of Boston's elite would be watching, judging, speculating. Sophia's hands trembled as she fastened delicate earrings. Her phone buzzed. "Car arrives in 10 minutes. You'll be fine. J.C." The message was brief, but something about it felt personal. Like he understood her nervousness. Stepping into a different world gala was held at the Museum of Fine Arts, transformed into a glittering wonderland of crystal and candlelight. Sophia stepped out of the car, and camera flashes immediately erupted. Julian appeared beside her, looking devastating, in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. "Breathe," he murmured, taking her hand. "Just follow my lead." His touch was warm and steady, anchoring her as they walked up the red carpet. Reporters shouted questions, but Julian ignored them with practiced ease, guiding Sophia through the chaos with protective confidence. Inside the museum, hummed with wealth and power. Sophia recognized faces from news broadcasts, CEOs and politicians mingling over champagne. She felt like an imposter, but Julian's hand never left hers. A silent reminder of their agreement. "You're a difficult man to pin down." A silver-haired man approached with a practiced smile. Theodore Bennett, no relation, owner of Bennett Financial Group, and known for ruthless business tactics. Julian greeted him with polite coolness. "May I introduce Sophia Bennett?" Sophia Theodore Bennett. Theodore's eyes assessed Sophia with uncomfortable intensity. "Bennett, you say? Any relation to the Connecticut Bennetts?" "No," Sophia replied, finding her voice. "Just a common name." "And how did you meet our elusive Mr. Cross?" Julian's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on hers. "Through mutual friends? Sometimes the best connections happen unexpectedly." It was a perfect known answer, revealing nothing while satisfying social convention. Theodore seemed disappointed but moved on after exchanging a few more pleasantries. When pretense feels too real as the evening progressed, Sophia found herself relaxing into the role. Julian introduced her to various guests, his hand always somewhere reassuring, the small of her back, her elbow, her hand. It should have felt performative, but instead it felt protective. During dinner, they sat at a table with other tech executives and their partners. Conversation flowed around venture capital, emerging markets, and regulatory challenges. Sophia contributed when she could, drawing on her marketing experience, and was surprised when people actually listened. Julian leaned close during dessert, his breath warm against her ear. "You're doing remarkably well. Half the room is wondering how I found someone this genuine." The compliment sent unexpected warmth through her chest. "I'm just being myself, I know. That's what makes it work." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the rest of the gala faded away. Sophia saw something in his expression that hadn't been there before. Appreciation. Maybe even admiration. The moment everything shifted after dinner. Julian led her to a quieter gallery away from the main ballroom. Paintings lined the walls, bathed in soft lighting. They were finally alone, or as alone as possible, with security lurking discreetly nearby. "I needed a break from the performance," Julian admitted, loosening his bow tie slightly. "Does that make me a terrible host?" Sophia smiled. "It makes you human. Something I wasn't entirely convinced of before tonight." He laughed, a genuine sound she hadn't heard from him before. "Fair assessment. I don't often let people see past the CEO mask. Why not?" Julian walked to a painting, a landscape of mountains at sunset. "Because vulnerability is leverage. People will use anything soft against you. 3 years ago, I learned that lesson the hard way." Sophia moved beside him, her curiosity overcoming her caution. "The woman you mentioned, the one who infiltrated your company?" His jaw tightened. "Victoria. She approached me at an event like this. Charming, intelligent, seemingly perfect. We dated for 6 months before I discovered she was corporate espionage planted by a competitor. She accessed confidential files, stole proprietary technology, nearly destroyed Cross Industries from the inside. That's why you're so careful now. Why you investigated me so thoroughly." "Yes, and why I don't trust easily anymore." He turned to face her. "But you're different, Sophia. You didn't seek me out. You didn't calculate your approach. You sent a drunken text by accident and then looked absolutely mortified when I appeared." Sophia felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Not my finest moment. Maybe not. But it was real. And I haven't encountered much real in a very long time. Honesty." In the shadows, they stood in the quiet gallery, the distant sounds of the gala muted by walls and distance. Sophia felt something shifting between them, the professional barrier beginning to crack. "Can I ask you something personal?" she ventured. "Whether I answer depends on the question. Are you lonely?" Julian's eyes widened slightly, surprised by her directness. For a moment, she thought he'd deflect or walk away. Instead, he answered with unexpected honesty. "Yes, constantly. I'm surrounded by people every day, advisors and executives and investors, but none of them actually see me. They see the CEO, the billionaire, the decision maker. They see what I can do for them." He paused. "So yes, I'm lonely. Even in a crowded room, especially in a crowded room." Sophia's chest tightened with recognition. "I understand that more than you know. After my breakup, I realized I'd been lonely even in the relationship. Daniel wanted a version of me that fit his expectations. When I couldn't be that person, he left." "Then he was a fool," Julian said quietly. The compliment landed differently than others she'd received. It felt earned, specific, true. "This arrangement we have," Sophia said carefully, "it's supposed to be business. Professional distance, public performance, private separation." Oh, that was the agreement. "Yes, but standing here with you, talking like this, it doesn't feel very professional anymore." Julian moved closer, and Sophia's breath caught. He didn't touch her, but the space between them felt charged with possibility. "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." The line they promised not to cross, Fia knew she should step back, maintain the boundaries they'd established. But something about this moment, this honesty, this connection, felt more real than anything she'd experienced in years. What happens if this becomes more than pretense? she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Julian's eyes searched hers. She saw the same conflict she felt reflected in his expression. Then we're in dangerous territory. Because mixing business with genuine emotion never ends well. Maybe it could this time, maybe. His hand lifted, hovering near her face as if asking permission. Or maybe we're both just tired of being alone. Sophia should have said something sensible, reminded him of their contract, protected herself from inevitable heartbreak. Instead, she leaned into his almost touch, closing the final inches between them. I don't want to be alone tonight, she admitted. Not anymore. Julian's control finally cracked. His hand cupped her face with surprising gentleness, and when he kissed her, it felt like falling and flying simultaneously. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deepened with shared loneliness and unexpected hunger. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing harder, Sophia saw her own surprise mirrored in his eyes. That wasn't part of the agreement, Julian said. Though he didn't sound regretful, no, it wasn't. We should probably go back to the gala. People will notice we're gone, probably. Neither of them moved. Julian rested his forehead against hers, and Sophia felt the walls they'd built crumbling. 8 weeks suddenly feels both too long and not long enough. What are we doing? Sophia asked. I don't know, but I don't want to stop. It's the beginning of something impossible. They returned to the gala eventually, maintaining appropriate distance while something electric hummed between them. Sophia caught Rachel Kim watching them with knowing eyes, and Owen Pierce looked distinctly concerned. When the evening finally ended, Julian walked Sophia to her car. Before she left, he took her hand one more time. It changes things, he said. We both know that. Yes. We should probably talk about what comes next. Sophia smiled, feeling braver than she had in months. Or we could just see where it goes. No contracts. No agreements. No pretending. Julian looked at her like she'd suggested something both terrifying and irresistible. That's a risk. Maybe some risks are worth taking. He kissed her again, softer this time, like a promise rather than a question. When he pulled back, his expression held something Sophia had never seen before. Hope. Tomorrow, he said. Dinner, just us. No performance, no audience. Just us, Sophia agreed. As she drove home through Boston's glowing streets, Sophia realized their fake relationship had already become something neither of them expected. They'd crossed the line they'd promised to respect. There was no going back. But for the first time since her world imploded 3 months ago, Sophia wasn't afraid of what came next. She was ready to find out where this impossible connection might lead. Even if it meant risking her heart again, sometimes the wrong message sent to the wrong person turns out to be exactly right.